of Brazil with the information paper on the USOAP. For your information paper number 2 on the updates of ICAO, precisely headquarters sent us a form to provide comments on the new job cards. So I took note of the comments made by Rene regarding aerodromes in mountainous areas for operations of above 5,700 kilograms. So I'm going to talk about that with my colleagues of headquarters. But I wanted to ask you if, aside from that and what Ricardo says about the regulatory issue of water aerodromes, is there any other comment that you would like to add in that respect so that we can take due note and pass on the comments to headquarters? Let me remind you what was presented in that working paper. Just give me a second. In that working paper, we presented, and this is the information paper now in Spanish. And if you let me scroll down because I want to show you the new work. This is what they are asking me to comment on. We have operation in airports located in mountainous areas. Rene, go ahead, please. Yes, good morning, Fabio. I have another comment for later on. Well, the other issue was the evolution of collaborative decision-making concepts. Just a second. Let me check if I'm recording the meeting. Okay, we are recording the session. Good morning once again. I was telling you that headquarters sent a form for sending comments on the new for job cards under 2.4.4 of information paper number 2. The first one had to do with airports in mountainous areas. And we already took note of the comments made by Bolivia regarding operations with aircraft above 5,700 kilograms, so that that can be taken into consideration in the analysis. We know that those airports have interesting operations. Then we had the evolution of collaborative decision-making comments in aviation, the TAM concept, the total airport management concept. And then we spoke about vertiports, which is the new job cars on vertiports. And finally, global provisions for the design, certification, and operation of water aerodromes. I don't know if that's the right translation into English. And here we take note of what Brazil, Argentina, and Colombia mentioned regarding the increasing request for operations in these airports. And basically what Colombia says about the conflict between the owners of the water bodies, the regulations. So aside from that, I would like to know if you have any further comments, Pepe. Regarding aerodromes in the water bodies, there have been some questions in this regard because they are interested in locating water aerodromes for hotels. So they are very interested because they asked me last week and I didn't know what to answer. Annex 14, it doesn't provide much information in this regard. So yes, I'm interested in discussing this topic. Thank you. Thank you. I take you note because in that way I can say that at least four states in the region are asking about this issue. If there are no further comments in this regard, then allow me to put on the table. Today we are discussing agenda item 3 that has to do with provision of AGA AOP services in the SAM region. Here, we want to discuss issues related to safety and air navigation concerning AGA AOP services. There are four sub-items. First, aerodrome planning and design, then aerodrome certification, operation, and safety, which is where we want to include all the aspects, including those to be presented later on by Coruscant PAF, then heliports. Here we don't have any information paper, but we can talk about the event that we had on Friday in future work. And the fourth sub-item related to capacity building and training. Here we asked our colleagues from Global Aviation Training of ICAO to make a presentation on the supply of ICAO training courses. However, in the meantime, if you go to the website of this meeting, at the end, there's a presentation, which is a presentation to be made in case you want to take a look at it. It's in English, but I think the presentation will be made in Spanish. So if there are no questions, let me present the first information paper, which is information paper number 3.
Okay.
Very well then. Once again, thank you very much to all of you for your participation. This information paper has to do with the status of Project F2 of GREPICAS. As you know, the GREPICAS program, which is our planning and implementation group for the region project. There are 3 projects under aerodrome. The first one has to do with aerodrome certification, which is a project that, although more related to safety, is a project that has been in REPECAS for many years. Remember that before we didn't have RASPA, we had REPECAS, so all aspects were discussed there. And under certification, there are several initiatives. For instance, not only certification aspects, but also even some safety, runway safety aspects are discussed. So it has served for many things. The second project has to do with aerodrome planning. And the third project is implementation of ACDM. Regarding F2 project, which has to do with the aerodrome planning, in 1.2 of the information paper, it talks about the general objective, which is to ensure adequate and sufficient aerodrome infrastructure in the states for the development of national and regional civil aviation. The idea is to make sure that we have adequate aerodromes to make sure that aviation is being properly provided, but also the idea is that the states uh, are in control of the future growth of aviation in their states and thus ensure that we may have sufficient airport capacity. Just to ask, uh, how are we going to grow with our main airport? When the pandemic arrived, several states, of course, we know that, faced several challenges, including the reduction in traffic, and that had an impact on the development of master airport plans. And many airports have been requesting changes in the master plans, the implementation of investments because of traffic. However, the problem remains in the sense of that the root cause of the problem, which is that we must ensure the future infrastructure, so the project is still relevant. This was the request of Grepicas that requested us to analyze whether the projects continue to be relevant despite the pandemic. So the analysis is that it is still relevant. The project initially had four job cards: airport planning, a roadmap, guidance material, model regulations, and the creation of capacity building. So currently, if we scroll down to the course, we are preparing a roadmap or guides on airport planning. This has been postponed for some periods because we did not have the necessary experts to work on this roadmap. So once again, as we did in the meeting of Grepicas, this project does not have a project coordinator. I'm sorry, I'm the program coordinator, but each project needs a project coordinator, which is normally a representative of the states or of the industry. In this case, if this project doesn't have a coordinator. However, we are working, we already carried out a survey in 2020, and we're working on this roadmap on airport planning issues. And the next step would be the preparation of guidance material. The guidance material, the idea of preparing this regional guidance material was to work on the basis of the new document. Those of you who participated in the session in 2018 on planning know that at that time we were already working this new version. However, for reasons that I don't know, unfortunately, ICAO has not published a new version of this document, at least until the last time I checked. I don't know what's the idea. The idea is for ICAO to publish the new guidance material, and we can work at the regional level on a guide that reflects our needs and that can be implemented by all the states. This guide, the guide being worked on in headquarters, is for local planning. In other words, airport master plans, updated with all the new parameters that these plans normally use, but it does not address the national planning aspects. And that's an issue that, once again, I urge the states that have experience in these aspects on national planning to please let us know by email when we can have a discussion, because our idea is that each state, be it within their national air navigation plan or as a separate document, should have a plan for the use of the airport. For instance, if you have 20 airports in the states, 20 international airports that serve different regions or provinces, not all of them will be the main hub of the state. The state normally plans the use of these airports, And the assumption is that if the state has this planning, when the airport operators prepare their master plans, at least they are aligned with the national plan, so that they won't do it in response to their own interests. So that's the assumption. That's what we've seen in some states. The master plan that the airdrome operator presents is just it just includes terminal infrastructure investments, that they do not invest in the air side, which is of more interest to the state. That they do not give priority to the compliance with standards. They invest in other things of their own interest. That's something that should be addressed in the national plan, and not all the states have it. So that's the idea, to have guides that are based to national planning and also to local planning. Since we are working at the regional level, the idea is that this plan should serve to take into account at least the regional needs, alternate airdromes, capacity, and so on. So that's what we have regarding this project. The model regulations, which was one of the deliverables, is already available. The SRV SOP already included the new amendments to Annex 14. As you know, Annex 14 now includes some master planning aspects, so they are updated and available. We should work on a proposal maybe for our English-speaking brothers. And the last point, which is the creation of capacity building and transfer of knowledge training, is something that has not been addressed yet, but the idea is, even if some states are interested in their training centers, they can provide these courses. Another initiative that we were discussing in the regional office was the possibility to have donors from other regions, so that at least one person per stage could receive a high-level training on airport planning. We thought that maybe many of you know the master plan offers in Spain. I think AENA, no, AENA is a sponsor, but it's offered by uh, Politecnica Madrid. And we are considering that, and also some other training courses that we could obtain the resources through this project. But as I said before, the project is slowed down. The work plan for project 901, we have a airport planning event to be held in September. Tentatively, it will depend on the news we get from headquarters regarding the guidance material. This is something that in which a pandemic, it didn't help much. So that's what we have regarding this project. Any comments regarding this project? René? Thank you, Fabio. Well, I want to talk about guidelines for national airport planning. I've seen that, especially in Bolivia, we are lacking. And the plans for each airport sometimes are not duly aligned. And that's not the best way to use the resources. In addition, a national planning of airports will allow us to meet our commitments with respect to ICAO. Some airdromes have to keep certain facilities according to international aviation. So I support this. And if there's any states with experience in the development of national airport plans, that would be very useful. That's what I wanted to say, Fabio. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rene. Any further comments from the states? Just a second, I'm changing my device. Is that better? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Thank you, Jorge. Thank you, Rene. We take note of your comments. And yes, I think that I know that the colleagues from Brazil have some experience, but basically the SAG, which is the Civil Aviation Secretariat, more than the SEA or ANAC, because I know that in the event we had a couple of years ago, we had a representative of the SAC, and there we could look for some support there in order to work more on this initiative. The issue of airport planning, well, on many occasions, the airports delegates this task on experts, private companies that provide these services, but they do not provide this service at the state level. And you know that ICAO is working on the aviation master plans, and that could also help for national planning. Thank you, Rene. Before moving on to the next paper, I didn't allow you to make your comments because you were raising your hand. Sorry for that. So would you like to say something? Any comments?
No, no te preocupes, Fabio.
No, don't worry, Fabio. Yesterday, we mentioned the issue of guidance under in the information paper. Mention was made of guidance for providing assistance to the relatives of victims. And I just wanted to know because that issue is discussed in facilitation, and I was asking why is it under aerodromes, but I see that it's not part of the job cards. Don't worry. Thank you. Yes, and thank you, Rene. It's not part of the new job card, but is being reviewed by the panel. And I'm also very curious about that because it's a facilitation issue. And I take note of your comment. Lázaro, please go ahead. Thank you, Fabio. Good morning, everybody. As you mentioned, Brazil, just like other states, has experience in national planning or regional airport planning. We have a national plan and a regional plan, but the problem is that that is under the states. That is the responsibility of the state, as you said. It's under the Civil Aviation Secretary, the SAC, and it's not under our responsibility. So we simply try to give guidance to airport investors so that they can prepare their master plan based on those guidelines. That's what we have today. Thank you, Fabio. Thank you, Lázaro. We also take note, and these projects, as I said, we expect that we will be able to go back to the same pace as before this year. We mentioned the possibility of preparing a collaborative planning guide. What do I mean by this? In some states, there is an airport planning guide, but to include all the stakeholders, the community, the airlines, and so on. So there are IATA guides for that in some states, but we don't have something at a regional level. So that's something we wanted to propose. The person who was going to help in that project left the organization that is IATA. So those are some of the factors that have occurred in this project and that have caused some delays. So we expect to resume the project. Thank you very much for your comments. So that would be the only paper we have regarding this issue. Let's move on quickly to our next item. We have an information paper from ASILAC. Give me a second. Marilena, are you there? Yes, Fabio, I'm here. Very good. Do you want me to present the paper or you want to present the paper? I can put it on the screen. Yes, please. Okay, just give me a second to show it on the screen. Sorry for that. Yesterday I had a single screen, now I have two, and I get a little confused. Very well then. Marilena, go ahead, please. Introduce yourself, and then uh, I'm Marilena Sandoval, advisor to ACI for Latin America and the Caribbean. We're working hand in hand with ICAO and with the CARSAMPAF on the bird issue in order to support the airports in the region and cooperate with the states in whatever they may need in order to make sure that the airports have an adequate level of safety. Let me know, please. Shall I read it or will you read it? No, the idea is for you to talk about the paper. Well, in ACI, we have a program called Apex in safety. We also have it in security, but on this occasion, we are promoting Apex in safety. We have identified that in the region, there is a low index of certified airports and also very few airports that have implemented SMS 100%. There is a 58% of airports in the region that have been certified, including the NAC, SAM, and CAR regions. The APEX program is a tool that can serve to prepare airports for certification. The idea is to send a group of experts in different areas, SMS, bird hazards, firefighting, infrastructure, different areas, depending on the needs of the airport at that moment. They stay for 1 week at the airport, doing a diagnostic of all the procedures. The procedures are based on Annex 14 and the best practices of ACI and the best practices of the industry, of course. After 1 week of doing the diagnostic, they leave a report of what they found. And that report serves as a basis so that the airport may prepare a work plan in order to address all the findings. Since the program is based on Annex 14, after they comply with all their findings, they should be prepared for the certification. Here, we want to promote the apex, to uh, provide knowledge about the apex, and ask you to help us identify what are the airports that you think might need a program like this. And I leave you here the link to go to the Apex website in case you need further information. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilena. Thank you very much. Yes, we need to point out that most of you know the APEX program, but as Marilena said, this is a group of experts that go to the airport and conduct a peer review. And this peer review, since it's not a review done by the states, rather it's amongst colleagues, then they can share information and talk without any fear or anything about problems, about all the issues, and trying to improve safety. In the SAM region, some airports have decided to uh, conduct this program. Now, in the African region, it was used to conduct their certification process. What they did there in Africa was that in order to certify an airport with ICAO's assistance in those days, well, they have a different program. First of all, the airport has to get an apex to be ready to prepare themselves. And what the Secretariat has done with ACLAC, what we've talked with ACI, is that when they promote these apex, it will be done in a coordinated fashion so that apex can prepare the airport to get a certification if the airport has not been certified yet. Why? Because the main objective is not to certify the airport. Please do not get me wrong. As Marilena said, this panel of experts or colleagues go and deal with different aspects like safety, but not only covered by the certification process, but other things like even best practices. So the idea is that with this report, the airport decides what to implement. Now, we've been coordinating things with ACLAC to hold these programs in airports that have not been certified yet, so that the airport can prepare all its documents and make the certification process easier. In theory, is what we're doing within an RSV swap, like a first phase. You know, like there's an evaluation, an informal evaluation to prepare all this and then get the certification. So that's the idea. Well, we're working on this already. In fact, there's a state in the region that's interested in having an apex. I think it's Suriname present here. So we are liaising with them in order to see how we can do this on a parallel basis and then to prepare the state for the certification process. That's the idea, you know, to have certified airports and that certification may guarantee all the processes. Well, so any comments on Apex? The floor is open. Very well then.
Sí,
Well, yes, Well, we do know it. We do know the program. I've seen it before. When we were working on the certification portion, and I think that ACI had offered the system to the operators, I mean, to come and do it. So we're familiar with it. Yes, when you click on the link, you will find more information about the benefits. And this is not only for airports that are not certified, it's also for those that are certified. They can do this evaluation as some way of external audit to see how they are performing in aspects related to safety. And of course, ICAO supports all initiatives that may be for safety purposes in all states. Fabio, I would like to add that there's another plus in this program, the creation of experts networks. After this evaluation at an airport, they get to know each other, and they do networking, and then they have their own chat groups, and they are always raising questions and helping each other and answering their questions. Thank you, Maria Elena. That's very important to create this kind of network of experts. Thank you very much, Maria Elena. Let's now move on to our next paper. Give me 1 second, please. Sorry, Fabio. Yes, Roberto, over to you. I just wanted to ask Maria Elena, well, first of all, to congratulate her for the support that they're providing to the airports in the region. I'd like to ask her how this sort of checklist is used with the airports they work with, under ICAO's standards or with their own standards? Well, in principle, ICAO standards, basically Annex 14. They make sure whether Annex 14 is met, and then they also see whether they are following the best practices of ACI and the industry. But as Fabio said, this is optional. If they do want to implement the best practices, or if they just want to do just what Annex 14 says. All right, thank you very much, Marilena. Thank you very much for your interest. Well, anyway, we will be posting Marielena's coordinates. Marielena, if you could also please include your email address in the chat, and I'll do so right away. Thank you. Jair, are you there? Yes, Fabio, I'm here. Thank you, Jaina. Jaina introduced himself yesterday. He is the chair of Carson PAV. We have some information papers. You know how it goes, Jaina. It's just a matter of describing the papers very quickly. I'll do it. I'll do it myself. Thank you. Just let me know if you have any problems. Well, Jenna gets ready. After the three information papers of Jainer, we'll give the floor to Brazil. Over to you, Jainer. Good morning, everybody. I introduced myself yesterday. I'm Jainer Molina. I'm the current president of Carson PAV. Our organization wants to support the states and all the stakeholders in aviation in aspects related to bird and wild fauna strike. And we have three papers we want to present. The first one talks about a program we are implementing. And we also have the support of ACLAG for the implementation of this program. They have been helping us enormously, and they are a great partner. And this is the early alert program. The idea of this program is to generate some alerts to the whole aeronautical community to prevent bird migration, especially displacement of birds, but also other types of fauna, but they do not affect air operations so much as birds do. I mean, other animals don't affect the aviation as birds do. So that is why we want to generate an alert related to migration based on the seasons from north to south in our continent. So the idea is for each country to report the sighting, for example, of certain types of birds that go by millions. And that's very important because especially in the isthmus, where large volumes of birds migrate from north to south. Now, the important thing about this paper is that we have three phases, fundamental phases in this program. The first one is the establishment of the network, and thanks to this network, we can extend it more. And the idea is to have authorities present. We have some representatives, but the idea is for everybody to join in the network. The states to appoint the persons in charge for the management of wildlife. And we have a lab where they are collecting all the information, like Padma, and you can download it in Play Store. It's available. Now, for Apple devices, it's pending approval. We've conducted the second change, and it's not available yet because there's a lot of paperwork involved when you deal with Apple. But for Android, it's fully available. So the first stage is the network that is available in many countries in the Americas. We want to extend it, and not only for the aeronautical community, but we're also linking people involved with the monitoring of these migratory birds. So in addition to the operators and states in the aviation community, we have biologists, conservationists that are part of this activity. And as I said, we have our app, and the idea of having this app is to consolidate all that information so that we can issue alerts. We want to generate an alert as soon as somebody uploads some information. You get the notice, you get to know that in Panama or in Mexico, they cited this or that type of a bird or animal. So that's important, so that airports that may get impacts of migrations of this kind can be prepared and, prepare bulletins and alerts. So basically, that's what we're doing with Padma. We would like the states to disseminate information about this within their respective countries and promote the use of this app. It's not used the whole year, it's seasonal. Migration starts usually in September, late August, early September, until like about March or April. That's the most important season in our continent in these matters. Now, that on the one hand, I don't know, Fabio, whether I present the three papers in a row and then we open for questions or comments. Jenner, maybe on a paper by paper basis, and well, at the end, of course, we give a bit more of time. Any comments on this paper presented by Carson Path? This is an initiative that has been worked on for some time now. And the idea is to have an early warning system for the benefit of airports. Any comments? Very well then. Next information paper, please. Well, the next paper is related to some support actions to the states for risk management. Specifically, we have two work lines in this aspect. One done hand in hand with the regional survey, as Fabio knows. And the fundamental base is to collect information, key information, so that we can identify and then finally support the states in some weaknesses there may be. And this is the current status of the implementation of notices related to bird strikes. So that's very important. We've been talking about change in those reports, taking into account all the work done by ICAO and what the states are doing internally. The idea is to try to have something homogeneous so that we can talk the same language. If somebody flies from one country to the other, can report this. Like, for example, I work in an airport, and in international flights, they are the least who report this. And it is very important to have statistics. That is of the essence for us to do some screening of the status of implementation of the notices. And then the national committees are also very important. And we want to know the status of these national committees in aspects related to wildlife. And the inclusion of wildlife management and safety based on document 9137 and its latest version. So those are the three components we wanted to take into account in the regional survey. It's a simple survey. It's been reviewed by ICAO. Fabio did this exercise with us, and we appreciate that. So our idea is to ask some questions, and at the end, to find out from 2019 to 2021, all the data related to wildlife risk, how many cases there were, and all that information will be managed in a confidential manner. It will not be disseminated. And it's related to safety, but it will be very important for us to be able to provide a better service to the states. And that is the purpose of Carson PAF, to provide a good service, not only to the states, but to the whole aeronautical community. We need this kind of input to know what those aspects are. And we also have another very valuable tool developed, which is a checklist of document 9137, the fifth edition, the latest edition. This is very important, not only for operators, but also for the states themselves. Why? Because we've captured in 11 components the whole document, and you can use it in different ways. Check the status of compliance of the aerodromes within the territory, or compliance by the state itself. This initiative is very, very important. We want to distribute it through the states, and it will also be published on our website. And pretty soon we will be publishing a first journal solely on wildlife related to aviation. And there will be an article about the use of this tool. In fact, document 9137.3 is very important, especially in aspects related to national committees. And there are lots of recommendations that are very important. If the states have not implemented them yet, the idea is for them to do so. So the idea is also to close that gap. Some states are making very good progress, while others are not doing so much in this regard. also, the implementation of tools is very important. So encourage the aerodromes and committees to have airport committees, as we will see. So this is what I wanted to tell you about this information paper that you will also find on the website of this event. Thank you, Jainer. Before moving on to the next paper, I'd like to know whether there are any comments on this one. Comments on Carson Path's information paper. I simply wanted to say something about the survey. We are working together with Carson Path to try to get all the necessary data to conduct the initiatives we have in the regional office. And with this survey, we also want to get information about the national committees, because now we have information about the audits, but as I said yesterday, many states have not done an audit in many years. And what we know through some operators is that the wildlife committees are not working as regularly as expected. And on the other hand, the idea is to try to share best practices. Here we have representatives from Colombia. Some days ago, I was also checking some dashboards presented by the Colombian Authority regarding wildlife. So these are things that can be shared within this framework of collaboration. And as Jainer was saying, the checklist. Well, Jainer, before showing the next paper, would you like to show the checklist if available? No, I do not have it with me at this time. Sorry. Well, okay. Maybe later then I'll send you the link. I'll ask Jainer to send me the link and I'll share it with you. No. We are going to give the states the checklist, right? Yes, that is correct. We'll be sending it to the states through you, and we'll also publish some articles about its use or how to use it in our magazine. It would have been great to show it now. As Jenny says, we can include it through in the paragraphs and so on. Lazarus, over to you, Lazarus. Thank you, Fabio. I would like to make a few comments regarding the Brazilian experience in this area of bird strike prevention. That was very well described by Jainer, president of Carson Path. In Brazil, according to our regulations, certified airports must have a management team for wildlife prevention with the participation of biologists and other professionals knowledgeable in animal behavior, so that they can control this bird risk. So in Brazil, all certified aerodromes have a team for the prevention of fauna risk. Now, regarding a national committee for bird strike prevention or bird strike risk, we do not have one. We have a safety plan at a state level that provides general guidelines on all the risks, safety risks, but I'm not aware of a national, regional committee for bird strike. These are local teams in certified airports. Thank you, Fabio. Thank you, Lazarus. Yes, the national committee issue is because in these aspects related to wildlife, it is necessary to involve agencies that are external to airports. Well, anyway, each state has its own way, or its own method to enforce the requirements. And according to document 9237 is through doing so through these national committees. And we want to work with Carson Path to promote these national committees that may include other agencies out of the aerodrome. I imagine that a state as large as yours, you give it a different approach at a local level. Yes, of course, the local teams that work at an aerodrome
articulación con otras entidades como
coordinate with other agencies such as firefighters or the police and the Department of the Environment of each state. So there is a broader committee with the participation of the airports, but of course, with the participation of other entities related to this kind of risk. And that's how they manage bird strike risk. That's the way it's done at this point.
Gracias, Lázaro. Carlos.
Thank you, Lazaro. Carlos, please.
Una consulta para el señor Molina.
Yes, just one question for Mr. Molina.
Hacer un Zoom con los especialistas.
Could we hold a Zoom meeting with those experts working in the PAF area? Would that be possible at some point? And maybe just show them those documents or the ideas you are proposing so that they can take direct contact with them and they can ask all the questions that they may have. Would that be possible? Set a date and time, at least for the regional system, but it could also be for the CARSAM region. I don't know. That's a question. Oh, yes, sure. Yes, Carlos. I think that it can be done. In fact, we've already done it with Chile, and that's what we'll be talking about now. And we're planning to do this with Mexico as well. So we are more than willing to hold that Zoom meeting, and we would like also to know if there's anything more specific that you would like to discuss, something related to regulations or the national wildlife plan or risk plan. Or we could hold a meeting, talk in general terms, or maybe talk about document 9137 if you have any doubts about it, any questions. We could be more than pleased to do that. Well, I would have to ask Fabio, of course, but what if Mr. Molina could do it directly with Uruguay staff, or would it be organized through the regional system and include several states? No, since he is also working with some specific states, then I have this doubt in my mind. Well, we could manage that because there are several things involved. Remember that CARSAM PAF is one of the associations, work associations with GRAPECAS, and they serve some member states in the regional area, and Jenner will be presenting some specific work done by CARSAM PAF with a state. And as part of the technical committee of the regional system, I think it could be of interest for the colleagues of the region to have a talk with CARSAM PAF and see how we can work more hand in hand so that CARSAM PAF can bring some experts and assist us in the work we do at the regional level. But since CARSAM PAF is an association an independent association, they receive requests from different airports or states, and they respond to that. Now, when these are issues that are done jointly,
Yo diría, Pepe,
we
que
could work jointly, or they could do it on their own directly. So,
con el
in
sistema
view of your level of harmonization of the LAR system, maybe it would be a good idea to have a talk with Carson Puff, I mean, the original system, to
para esto, para no
discuss more in detail this possibility so as not to duplicate efforts. If you're working on a checklist, why are we going to ask our experts to do the same things? Maybe we could simply try not to duplicate efforts. So we take note of this, Pepe, and then we could have a meeting internally, and maybe we decide whether we do it with the rest of the panel, or if you just want to do it with Carson Path, we have no problem. You can just get in touch with them directly. No,
I just wanted to express this concern.
Vale.
sea lo más correcto.
Sí, tomamos
You
nota de eso.
decide whatever is better.
Paf está aquí
As
también.
we take note, that's why Carson Puff is here. Thank you, Pepe. Gainer, one thing, I wanted to ask you to have a break at 10:30. We have to look after something here. So Yener presents his paper. We have a discussion, then we have a break at 10:30, and after the break, we will have the presentation of information paper 12 and the others.
Gracias.
Okay.
Jainer, adelante, por favor.
Thank you, Yainer. Go ahead, please. Thank you, Fabio. So going to the other paper, the supports that we are providing to the national committees. In this case, we did a test with Chile. They approached us. They have already established their committee, but there was a lot of apathy because what happens is that, and when they invite you to a meeting, you think there's nothing for you to do there. There's apathy because you think it's not related to your issue that happened with in Chile with the local authorities, environmental authorities, the governors, the municipalities. And the problem was that they did not want to participate. And as Fabio says, every wildlife management does not only correspond to the airports, but to all those authorities that can exert a control and prevention outside of the airport. Also those involved with solid wastes, organic wastes, slaughterhouses, fisheries, agriculture, or even sport activities, as they wanted to do in Paraguay, a place for rowing next to the airport. And that's what they wanted to do. So all that has to be addressed, that the aeronautical authority can intervene directly, and it requires the support of those authorities. That's what we wanted to highlight with Chile. We prepared a video explaining what are the national committees and their importance, because as an aerodrome or an aircraft operator or the state itself, the aeronautical authority, they know what their function is, but the external parties feel that they are in the wrong place. And the idea was to encourage them and tell them, you are in the right place. We need your help. And that's why in Chile, this paper was prepared together with an official of the DGCA of Chile, who served as a bridge. And we did fine. According to the comments we see, the idea is to continue promoting this idea of the committees, and also to help establish the committees. It's very important that this experience that we've had with Chile, that we can share it with other places. For instance, Brazil is very important to have a national committee because there are laws And there are regulations that escape the control of the local authorities that are at the state level. And the airport committees cannot solve these problems because it's not under their jurisdiction. The idea is to discuss them at the national level. In Colombia, the National Committee works quite well. They discuss all the issues. For instance, they have a discussion of drones and in order to harmonize their regulations with the use of aerodromes at the airports in order to monitor birds and because according to the regulations, drones cannot be used within the airports. So we are trying to include the controlled use of drones for bird control purposes. And that comes from the national committees, those work tables in which we have the participation not only of the local authorities, but also the national authorities that are related to the topic. So it's very important, that aspect for us. And we are willing to support those states that do not have a national committee and create that figure. And together with the ASILAG, we are doing that, as Maria Elena says, from the bird hazard subcommittee, we are discussing that issue of the airport problems. But many airports say that in their states there is no national committee. So the idea is to create those national committees to address those issues. That was the experience we had in Chile. It was something that we did in order to create awareness amongst the authorities so that in compliance of their functions, they will contribute to the control of those external factors that promote the presence of birds and wildlife. So that's what I wanted to present in the paper. Any comments? Any questions?
¿Algún comentario para la presentación de Jainer?
Any comments on the presentation made by Jainer? Fabio? Yes, Lázaro, go ahead. You mentioned that the existence of a national committee is important in order to address bird hazards. In Brazil, we have a national committee for the environment or for sustainable development. That's how we call it. So there is an entity, a federal entity that takes care of that area, but it doesn't have the specification of a bird hazard. There is no specific committee to address that. It's a committee for the environment. It's a committee that takes care of, we don't have a committee for a bird hazard. Thank you. Thank you, Lázaro. Yes, as I said, each state can have a different model. It's like when we talk about the runway safety team, we said that many airports have a safety committee at the airport. So there's an agenda item on runway safety. It doesn't have to be called RST. The airport can demonstrate that they carry out activities related to this, or that they related to the objectives of the RST. As my boss says, doesn't matter what color the cat is as long as he eats the mice. So it's the requirements may be different in each state, but ICAO does not prescribe, uh, at least on this specific issue. I can show you, for instance, and let me share my screen, the document 9137 part 3 in section 2.7. It talks about take it as an acceptable means of compliance. Here we propose a form in which the states could comply with these requirements. But as Lázaro says, there's a national committee where that may be covering all these aspects and not only addressing wildlife, but everything related to the environment. The important thing is that matters related to these issues are addressed, whether we call it environmental committee, or it's a matter for the SSP of the states or a wildlife committee, it doesn't matter. The important thing is that those aspects addressed by the document compliance with Annex 14, Volume 1 are addressed. And the experience of Brazil is interesting because it could be applied in other states. For others, maybe it's better for them to apply this other mechanism. CARSAMPAF is a forum of experts on the topic, and it's available for these activities. For instance, in the regional system, we provide a system to certify aerodromes. But if a state wants assistance to prepare the wildlife committee, in addition to seeking experts from the states, I would call on CARSAMPAF because they are biologists, they are experts. Sometimes in our authorities, we don't have biologists, we have inspectors. So CARSAMPAF is there to give us support. So thank you, Lázaro, for your comment. Any further comments to the paper presented by CARSAMPAF? Yes, Fabio? Roberto, go ahead. Well, first of all, thank you, Fabio. I wanted to congratulate General Molina for the work being carried out in CARSAMPAF. And as he says, it's important to sensitize all the owners or that have something to do in the surroundings of the airport in order to work together on the measures to mitigate a bird hazard. This is something that needs to be done in many states because there are many entities involved. And the airport, I don't know if you maintain the 13 kilometers from the center line of the runway with regards to bed hazard for the takeoff and approach of the aircraft, because that's where we can have more risk. And as Carlos Garcia Pepe said, it's important to know that checklist that could help us in the work we carry out in the SRV SOP for the certification of aerodromes. So it would be important to know that checklist that you have developed in CARSAMPAF. Thank you. Thank you, Roberto, of course. And I'm going to share the link with Fabio so that he can share it with you. And if you have any doubts, you can write to me. I will give you my email so that we can discuss any doubts you may have. Thank you. We have Luis. Go ahead, Luis. Thank you, Jane. Good morning, Fabio. Good morning, Jainer. Since we know that Panama is an important point for the migration of birds from north to south and from south to north. So next week, on the 28th, we are going to reactivate the National Committee on Bird Hazard. According to our law, this committee must be coordinated by the Civil Aviation Authority and the Director General. yours truly. So I would like to know if you could help us to exchange contacts to see if maybe you can give us some support to discuss this issue, maybe an explanation by Carson Path for the consultative committees that are these external entities that sometimes do not properly understand the bird hazard. So I would like to see if we could have the support of Yainer next week. We can coordinate that, Yainer and Luis. Yes, thank you very much. I'm going to have Luis, could you send me an email with copy to Yainer? Yainer will put his email address on the chat, and we can discuss it. And please send us a copy of that email. I think we can organize something. Thank you. Thank you, Luis. Well, once again, thank you, Carson Pav. It's at 10:30. As I said, I wanted to ask you for a coffee break right now. We would be back at 10:50. Lázaro said that Brazil would present information paper number 12, but I wanted to ask you, can we let the people of global aviation training of ICAO, they're asking to make the presentation before because apparently they have to do something afterwards. If you agree, we can do that. Sure, no problem. Okay, thank you very much, Lázaro. So 10:45, 10:45? 10:45, is that okay? Or 10:50?
No, creo que 10:45, no sé.
10:45
Tema
is okay.
muy largo, si la historia es corta.
Deje 45, entonces volvemos.
10:45 then. Okay.
Más o menos 5 minutos, ¿ok? Gracias
More
a
or
todos.
less 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Buenos días nuevamente.
Buenos días, Fabio.
Good morning again.
Volvemos nuevamente a nuestra sesión.
So we're back to our session.
Por la espera.
Thank you for waiting.
Dame un segundo.
Just give me a second.
Creo que Jainer no había pasado el correo
I think
a todos.
Yainer
Poner en el chat,
just
para que
sent
ustedes
me his email. I'll put it on the chat. There it
muchas
is.
gracias a todos.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. As I said before,
Vamos a permitirle a los
now
colegas
we are going to
Buró de Cooperación Técnica de la OAS
let the Technical
presentación
Cooperation Bureau
eh,
colleagues of ICAO to
una
present the next
presentación
paper. It's actually a presentation. Jose Riveros, who's our colleague
del GAT, que es
from the GAD, which is a Global Aviation Training of ICAO,
va a ser la presentación de
is going to present this
presentar
part.
allí
Uh,
José.
Jose, are you there? Can you introduce yourself, please? Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon. Well, it's still good morning here. Thank you very much, Fabio, and especially thank you very much to all the participants. It's a pleasure for me to be able to talk to you and to hear from you and present what ICAO has in order to increase the level of our human resources. Jose, just give me a second. Well, during the slides, you have a chance to know better who we are. Jose, do you want me to present the slide? No, I can present the slides directly. Thank you. Very good. Go ahead, please. Thank you. Let me share my screen. Just to give you the context, Jose, the meeting is, we have the focal points of the SAM region participating in this meeting, and we are going to address some issues on training at the region level, but we want to know the training proposal of headquarters. Thank you, Jose. Thank you very much.
Sí, ya
You already see the presentation, right? Okay.
una cosa más, José, disculpa que te
One
interrumpa.
more thing, Jose, before we start. Did you select Spanish? We are having simultaneous interpretation. Yes, sure, in Spanish. Sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Do I have to select?
Algo que se llama
Yes, there is an interpretation globe where you have to select your language so that the interpreters can hear you properly. Can you hear me? Can you confirm if you're listening, Eva?
si escuchan a José en el canal español.
Sí, yo escucho bien en el canal de inglés.
Ok, adelante, José, ya está listo.
Yes, Jose, everything is ready. Everything fine. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Very well then. Well, who are we? Well, we are technical cooperation. We're part of technical cooperation because the global training section, which is how we call it, the main purpose of this global aviation training section is to support states in the implementation of the SARPs, and that's a technical cooperation. That's why we are here to give an integrated solution to our states and give them this support. Our vision is to lead the development of human resources in aviation. The mission is to establish a coordinated, effective, and efficient mechanisms to support the development of human resources in aviation in a cooperative manner with the support of all the states. And the objective is to facilitate the global implementation of ICAO provisions to establish standards and acceptable training and qualification frameworks, and to provide guidance to the states and the industry in the development of these skills according to ICAO recommendations to create skills. And in that mission, vision and objectives, we have the Trainer Plus program, which is the main pillar of this strategy because it's a cooperative global networks. It's a methodology, uh, very high quality. It's a program where we prepare courses based on competencies, and it's a network of global experts, experts in training that support this program. And as I said, is a cooperative network with many members that allow us to reach all the states. In the case of the SAM region, we are very proud and very grateful because all the SAM states are members of our program, except the Guyanas from Panama to Argentina and Chile. They are all members of our program, and this allows us to be a standardization mechanism to share resources and strengths. And within this network, we have created a very robust catalog of courses in all the areas of aviation, and specifically in was corresponds to our topic, aerodromes. We cover all the areas of aviation. We have more than 370 courses that we have developed in ICAO. We, ICAO, in association with our 110 members, and our members following our autonomy, and we validating the methodology so that the courses are of the highest level. And that's a great advantage because of the success of our courses, thanks to the methodology that we apply, allows the knowledge of the experts in the different areas, in this case, aerodromes and runways, is shares regardless of who is conducting the course. And here you have the websites where you'll find all these courses. For instance, if we go to aerodromes, you'll see that you can search what you need and do this exercise. Please do the search do the exercise, go to topic here to this section and look for airports, and you'll find the different courses. In our case, we can search Spanish. We'll see all the courses that we have provided in Spanish, both us and our members. You know, in the region, you know better what you need, and these are courses that have been fully reviewed by the technical area in headquarters by experts to make sure that the documentation used is current and that the experts are the best according to a database. And the states can be assured that the training courses are of the best quality, so that they don't need to go to other sources that are not the best to provide this type of training. I won't get into details, but many of these courses have been developed in the SAM region, which is the region that speaks most Spanish amongst all our regions. So you'll find training courses prepared by our Latin American experts and centers, and that gives support to our knowledge and to our experts. So there it is. You can navigate through this section. You can go to the different areas. You can start searching the different aspects. Aerodrome operations, for instance, aerodrome design. And you can register directly. Safety management in aerodrome runways. Here you'll find all the information, the objective of the course, the general objectives, specific objectives, the target population, who developed the course, and you'll find a form where you will be able to register. There will be courses that are already scheduled, and you just register, you participate, and there will be courses that are not yet scheduled, but you can register and express your interest in participating. So when we have a sufficient number of participants, there will be a training center obviously interested in providing the course. So on this website, you will find all the resources, you'll find all the information, and you will be able to register. In addition to that, there it is, and the presentation will be at your disposal so that you can find the website. Not only do we have courses in Spanish, most of the courses are in English. We have 17 courses on aerodromes, and probably some of them will meet your needs, but outside of Spanish, there are many more courses in English. So the idea is to take advantage of this possibility in order to have it's very important to have proficiency in English. So here you have a list of courses on regulatory aspects developed by ICAO, many of them in collaboration with Airports Council International, ACI, and you'll find all the information about these courses. ACI brings together all airport operators. In this case, it's a course developed by the two most relevant organizations in aviation. So you can do the search and find what you need. This one, for instance, is a course developed by ICAO and ACI as well. And what we do, in addition to providing courses, is to organize a package of courses that will give you an accreditation in certain aspects, such as this one that we call Airport Management Professional Accreditation Program of the ACI and ICAO. It's called AMPAP, and it's for airport executives. It's 6 courses covering all the functional areas of airports, according to the highest standards. You can also go to the page of this program everything is specified regarding the accreditation that you will receive, the program, the objectives, the criteria for registering in the program. So the idea is not to have just isolated courses, but to have everything integrated in a professional scheme so that you may receive that accreditation for airport management.
Okay. La otra certificación que ustedes
The other certification that you can obtain through these programs and courses is that of airport safety professional. It's also a course developed by the two organizations, and just like the previous one, it gives you that certification, that recognition as airport safety professionals. In this graph, you see that there are 3 mandatory courses that you have to complete in addition to some selective courses. I'm sorry, one course on safety for practitioners of ICAO. You can do it in a period of 3 years. And that is fully attainable. It's a broad period of time that is given to those who take the course, and in the end, you take an exam that assures us that the people that follow the course have acquired the necessary skills in order to receive the accreditation. Once you take the 4 courses, we give you 1 year to pass the exam and demonstrates that you have acquired the necessary skills. The objective of the program is to train and recognize senior airport managers and airport regulators that have demonstrated an understanding of the relevant ICAO SARPs and professional excellence in the field of airport airside operations, uh, as well as maintaining industry best practices as defined by Airports Council International.
How do we do it? It's just an example, and we have lots of courses in Spanish. And in fact, these certification courses and the various programs, unlike other safety programs, there are many that are in Spanish through that program. And as I said, in all our states in the SAM region, we have a center that's a member of the Trainer Plus program, and that makes it much easier for you to have access to that training. In our website, you will find the SIACs or the SAM training centers that are part of the program, our program members. You can go straight to them or to us, and then we will connect you with a pertaining focal point. Or you can request that individually or as an institution, as an organization, as an airport operator, with the right experience. Well, that's the way we do it through more than 110 members that we have in our network. And you can do it talking with the training center, reaching an agreement with them, or you can do it directly with us through an agreement that we call Training Service Agreement, a TSA, that describes the scope of the training to be provided, describing all the conditions and other details. And in the ICAO's Global Training Center, we are managing all the IPACs. IPACs is a very effective output that is of great assistance to the states. Not only does it include training, because it does have a training package, plus consulting services and the assistance of experts, focusing on specific aspects that may be required. So comprehensive assistance can be provided, not only in terms of training, but also with the assistance of experts, and hopefully there can be a specific solution and a whole strategy for the states, for operators, for AGA,
alguna estrategia o frente a la solución de alguna deficiencia o lo que
vis-a-vis a strategy or the solution of whatever issue may be involved.
Pues no sobra decirlo que
Well,
todo esto obviamente está soportado en
suffice it to say that all this is
la aviación de muy
supported
alto
by
nivel.
high-level
En aviación, pues han pasado primero por un
training
proceso de
instructors
selección,
that they have been
cumplimiento de unos mínimos
duly selected, prior compliance of some minimum
puede ocupar
requirements, taking into account their profile
esa acreditación
to
y
get the
además un
accreditation.
proceso
And
de cualificación.
there's also been a qualification process.
Tomen capacitación, que las personas
So
demuestren
the
en OJT, o sea, que
candidates
demuestren
may
en
get the
la
training and
práctica,
show in
que son
practice
idóneos
at
para
work that they
que se puedan
are
cualificar y de esa manera entran a formar parte de la base
they are
mundial,
right
de
for
la
the
base
qualification
para
and they can be part of ICAO
podríamos agrupar de manera
list of
general
training experts. And we can group them like in three groups in general: instructors,
preparadores
experts in the matter, SMEs, and
preparadores
validators. So we have trainers and validators here. So these are
grupos
the three groups
de expertos que tenemos en nuestra base
of
de datos
experts that we have in our database of around 300 experts
han pasado
from
por
all over the
proceso de
world.
selección y
They've
cualificación.
all gone through this
Que tengamos en nuestra base de
qualification, training and qualification process. So wherever you will find it, it will be appropriate for the purposes, that is to provide training, validate training, or be experts in the matter to support training aspects in the area of their competence. And there are lots of things that can be mentioned,
por el tiempo y
but thank you very much for your time.
por la especificidad, pues yo creo que con eso les hemos
And for
brindado
your dedication. I think that in this way, we've been able to provide some general information
y esperamos que
to motivate you,
la
hopefully.
información que les vamos a dar
And
naveguen en los enlaces que le hemos dado.
well, we encourage you to browse, to
Lo más importante,
go to the links.
que aprovechemos todos estos beneficios
And the
para nuestros
important thing
estados.
is to
Entonces, instrucciones
take
que
advantage of
se
these
conocen
benefits
perfectamente
for
ustedes,
our states.
siguiendo las
This is
metodologías
done
de tan
for
alto
you,
estándar
following the
ICAO,
methodologies
utilizando nuestros
and high
expertos.
standards of ICAO, using our experts. The time has come to see what's there for our benefit and
Cubrir las brechas de las
fill
necesidades
those
de
gaps
en nuestros estados.
in training needs that our states may have.
Saben que lo están haciendo a través de la UASI,
You know that you're doing it through ICAO,
para la aviación,
through the UN Agency for Aviation,
bajo recuperación de costos. O sea,
under the cost recovery method that is in the most appropriate way in terms of costs for our states, because that's our mandate.
el Consejo de la UASI está siempre
ICAO's council
actividad y ellos verificando lo que estamos
is always aware of our activities,
en beneficio de los estados de la manera más.
always for the benefit of the states.
Y bueno, muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Esperamos tener
I
una
hope
mayor demanda de parte de SAM
that we get far more demand from SAM
para su talento humano en AGA.
to
Muchísimas gracias.
train your human talent in AGA. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Thank you very much, Jose, for your presentation on behalf of GAT. The floor is open for questions now.
Si ustedes,
And one more thing,
y ustedes dicen, mira,
if you have an idea and you say like, well, we need some training in this, and we don't have it, just let us know. And maybe one of our members or even ourselves
podríamos desarrollar el curso para
could
cubrir esa
develop
necesidad que usted
that course to cover your current need.
para la situación en la que se esté. Entonces, no solamente
To
somos
face the situation that you have. So we're not only not only do we have a database of experts, but also of course preparers and validators that can create that specific training you may be needing.
Muy bien,
All right,
gracias,
thank you. Thank you very much,
José
Jose
por
and
la
Gat,
presentación, que creo que
for this presentation.
para los estados conocer cuál es
I
la
think it is always very important for states to know
y bueno, interesante lo que
what's
mencionaba
available in terms of products and services. And as you said, if they have any specific need, and I,
elevarla al GAT
and I think that's what we've been discussing, we can ask GAD to assist us in the preparation of a course. Well, yes, and as I said, since we have a global office, it's true that most courses are in English. Of course, after English, the second language used in ICAO is Spanish. But if you find a good course in English but it's not available in Spanish, and you think that just because it's in English, you won't be able to have the right trainer, or you just let us know and we analyze it as a business case. Why a business case? Because we have a huge responsibility regarding our program costs. So we need to recover costs, and we would analyze the possibility of translating that course into Spanish. And if it's decided that it is a good thing, we could invest in translating the course. But maybe if we will only have just 10 people and then it will not be given again, then in that case, it would not be a good idea. Translation is when it is for the benefit of a large number of states. Yes, thank you very much. It is important because many of the barriers we have, not only in training, but also in terms of documents, it's the language issue, in fact. We know that the global language is English, but that's what we face. Once again, thank you very much, Jose. And now let's move on to our next information paper. Information paper number 12. Well, Jose, before you go, before you leave, there is a question in the chat asking for your email address, please. Or you can get in touch with them through the regional office. jriveros@icao.int. Whatever information you may need, just write to me. Thank you. Lazaro, are you ready with information paper 12? Hello, Fabio. Yes, of course.
La presentación es Marcelo Coit.
Marcelo will be doing the presentation because the system was developed in his area.
Marcelo Coit.
So Marcelo Coit will be delivering the presentation. Will you be sharing the information paper on the screen or who?
Marcelo, ¿desea hacerlo usted o...? Ok, adelante,
Marcelo,
por favor.
would you do it? Yes, over to you then, please.
Uma sencilla apresentação.
It's a very simple presentation that I will share now.
Vem a apresentação?
Can you see it? Can you see my screen?
Ve, gracias.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Bom dia a todos. Graças por
Good day, everybody. Thank you for giving us this chance to talk about the Brazilian experience. I will present the Brazilian experience in the implementation of risk-based oversight surveillance. Here we have a methodology implemented by Brazil to assess risks in the surveillance of aerodromes based on the bow tie diagram method, taking into account the main non-desired events related to takeoff and landing operations. Let me present the Brazilian context first. In Brazil, we have 503 public aerodromes now, of which 135 are authorized for regular aircraft operations of aircraft with more than 19 seats. 60 aerodromes are certified. Now, for regular operations in Brazil, the aerodrome must be either certified,
definidas as especificações de operação.
The certification defines the operations, types of operations, critical aircraft, special operations. It's all based on the aerodrome operations manual. But there are also temporary provisions that allow uncertified aerodrome operations. There's a definition of weekly frequencies and the difference of critical aircraft for some of those non-certified aircraft. In late 2021, the limit of those frequencies or the reference code could be extended through joint management or risk management and safety management. Those joint processes are conducted by operators and aerodrome operators under the responsibility of the aerodrome operator. In the next amendment of RBAC 139, which deals with the certification process, it is mandatory to get the certification, but that is for, or it will be for international airports. So international airports will have to get this certification. Now for domestic or national aerodromes, some of them will have to go through the certification process based on some specific risk parameters. So many aerodromes, though they are not international, will have to go through the certification process. And in addition to that, other aerodromes will be able to conduct regular operations through risk management, joint risk management processes, and guaranteeing safety between the air operators and airdrome operators under the responsibility of airdrome operators. Now, to manage this wide set of airdromes in Brazil, in the last 2 years, we developed a risk-based surveillance program where we created some support tools to assess airdromes and surveillance terms, making it possible a more efficient use of resources. And in this project, we started with 2 safety events, Escolha 2, with the most relevant occurrences to manage risks.
Inicialmente selecionamos
So initially we selected
as ocorrências consideradas high risk categories of occurrence, runway
in different
incursion,
categories like runway incursion, runway excursion,
planos de seguridade operacional do Estado brasileiro,
and in the safety plans of Brazil, runway excursion is regarded as a high-risk event.
Nosso projeto selecionamos
So in our project, we selected these 5 events that are regarded as the most relevant ones directly related to the airport infrastructure and that have a direct participation of the airdrome operator, namely runway incursions, runway excursions, foreign object damage, bird strike, and wildlife strike. So that's how we started selecting these 5 events or these 5 occurrences. Then we worked with these bow tie diagrams, selecting the barriers to prevent these occurrences and to recover from those occurrences. This is an example of a bow tie diagram for runway incursion. In this bow tie, on the left-hand side, we have the prevention barriers. And on the right-hand side, we have the recovery barriers for prevention of severity of those events. And in the middle, you have an undesired event, undesired aviation event. In the bow tie, we also selected some infrastructure barriers, procedures, and training. And those are our bow ties for the 5 events. So they follow the same structure. Now, for each barrier, we do an assessment and we define some qualitative values, weak all the way to strong or serious. This is a tool that we use to evaluate those barriers. All the barriers are listed in a sequence. And if a barrier is related to more than one event, then on the right-hand side,
observadas as barreiras relacionadas
You can see
para quais eventos estão relacionados cada barreira, por exemplo,
to
na barreira
which event the barrier is related. Like, for example, barrier number 3A,
ela
right protection of the
relação com runway
operational area. We have runway incursion and
wild strike também. Então, se
also for wildlife strike. So this is our tool. We have a list of barriers.
tema, infraestrutura,
They are divided by topic, infrastructure, procedures, by type, preventive or recovery.
e para cada uma delas realizamos
And
de
we
muito
do
fraco
the
hasta muito
evaluation, grading them or rating them as a very weak all the way to very strong.
avaliação,
And after the evaluation,
a força das barreiras é replicada em nos voltais.
the strength of the barriers is replicated in the bow tie diagram.
Diagnóstico
What are the objectives of this tool? To have a standardized diagnosis
da seguridade operacional,
going from the most general conditions in safety,
apenas compliance, mas outras barreiras que são afetas à segurança
there are other barriers that do
também.
affect safety, and they are the ones that are considered.
Dos dados em uma base,
Standardization and storage of data in a database.
é possível análises comparativas
And in this way, we can conduct a comparative analysis between similar aerodromes and have a historic analysis
por meio desses
of data throughout time.
e essas análises é possível
In this way,
definir quais aeródromos
we can define which aerodromes will be getting
então é uma importante ferramenta para
face-to-face oversight actions and also determine the regularity.
ações remotas e
The other ones keep receiving remote actions for the verification of the strength of the barriers.
quando esses operadores aéreos realizam sua própria avaliação
But
determinado aeródromo
not always
pretende operar.
are done in on the same occasion at the same time, always with the help of air operators.
Também pelos inspetores de aeródromo, se há se possível estabelecer uma
And with the use of the same tool by air operators and also by aerodrome inspectors, it is possible to
ferramenta
compare or match the risks and do a more collaborative risk analysis to mitigate risks related to safety. That is between ANAC and the industry.
Dessas ferramentas, a base de dados já estamos aplicando nas tomadas.
This tool, this database are being used in the decision-making process
Final de 2021
since late 2021 and now in 2022. So, in summary,
as análises barreiras consideram barreiras de prevenção e recuperação.
the analysis of barriers take into account those of prevention, and the rating includes 5 levels, and they are related to these 5 types of occurrences, and based on this analysis,
Que sejam definidas ações, medidas
what we expect is to identify mitigation measures by airline operators and aerodrome operators. taking into account the right safety of aerodromes. So what's being developed is the standardized use of a single tool by all stakeholders, airline operators, aerodrome operators, and inspectors. We are sending complete files to be included in their databases. And the next step will be to provide access to airline operators so they can include their information directly into the database. And in the future, to provide free access to the contents of the database so that operators can assess the safety of their operations or support them in their decision-making processes. To implement this project, we are conducting some technical visits together with airline operators and aerodrome operators.
El contenido de la nota técnica esto. Gracias por el
This is all, and thank you very much for your kind attention. I am available for any questions that you may have regarding this tool or the project.
Compartilhar a ferramenta para todos. Gracias.
And you can also share this tool with others. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Marcelo, for your presentation. It's been very interesting. Whenever you can, please send me the presentation so I can share it with all the colleagues. All right. Thank you, Marcelo. Carlos Garcia Pepe. Over to you. I think your microphone is off.
Muito obrigado, Marcelo.
Thank you very much, Marcelo. When you talk about remote inspections,
Trabalho que você faz aí.
what's the contents of the work you do in those cases? Well, remote inspections.
Solicitamos que el operador de aeródromo
What we do is ask the aerodrome operator to conduct its own assessment of the barriers and send us some information regarding compliance of mandatory requirements. So we ask them to answer some questions and send us some evidence so that we could evaluate each one of those barriers. Of course, the level of reliability of a remote inspection is lower than those conducted on site. But it allows us to have a broader diagnosis of all the aerodromes. Remember that we have like about 500 public aerodromes, and it's not possible to go visit all of them with the right frequency, and that is why we use other types of oversight actions in order to do all the monitoring of all the aerodromes. Thank you very much. I apologize for my broken Spanish/Portuguese.
Marcelo.
Thank you, Marcelo. Any other questions for Marcelo?
Sí, Fabio.
Yes, Fabio.
Una
Over to you,
consulta.
Roberto. Thank you, Marcelo, for the presentation.
¿Cómo realizan ustedes
How do you
la división para clasificar estos 500
divide these
internacionales?
503 international and domestic
Lo ha-
aerodromes and all the other aerodromes?
Una evaluación
Do you do it through an evaluation
operacionales,
of operational issues, radio aids, equipment? How do you rate them?
Divisiones. Principal es por
Well,
tipo de
basically, it's by type of operation.
dividimos aeródromos con
We divide the aerodromes with scheduled flights
19 asientos.
above 19 seats. Initially, there are 5 profiles.
Aeródromos certificados.
Aerodromes that are certified that operate scheduled flights above 19 seats. Aerodromes not certified that operates scheduled flights above 19 seats.
Aeródromos con vuelos
Aerodromes with scheduled
con
flights
aeronaves abajo
with aircraft
de 19 asientos.
below 19 seats, a segment that grew a lot in Brazil in the last few years, using caravan aircraft.
Aeródromos con operación
Aerodromes with
vuelos de instrucción.
training flights, that's another profile.
Y el último perfil
And the last profile is the other aerodromes.
con a base de dados.
With a database,
Otras
we
divisiones.
can use other classifications as well, type of infrastructure,
Eran vuelos nocturnos,
whether they operate night flights.
con desarrollo de esa base de datos es posible
So with that database,
crear clusters
we can create specific clusters
posibilitando evaluación
that enable the assessment of those segments and the application of specific actions for those sets, both surveillance or oversight actions, as well as training actions for certain aerodrome profiles. Okay,
Ok, muchas gracias, Marcelo.
thank you very much, Marcelo.
Gracias, Roberto. Gracias, Marcelo.
Thank you, Roberto. Thank you, Marcelo. Any further questions or comments for Marcelo?
Yo solamente quería comentar y gracias.
I just wanted to say, and thank you very much, Marcelo, for the presentation,
Hace unos días conversamos
that a few days ago, I was talking with some friends about the role of the AGA inspector,
hace un tiempo atrás
and we were discussing that with somebody from Transport Canada
el inspector
as to how the AGA inspector was previously seen as the engineer who puts on the boots and goes to the fields
con el casco a ver los temas de infraestructura.
with his to see the pavement, but now
Tiene una connotación más de ser un
it
especialista
is seen more as an expert in regulations and not necessarily an expert in everything,
ser un
but rather
conozca bien la
a person who knows well about the regulations
forma práctica
and that applies to them in a practical manner, because we don't want inspectors
quieran aplicar la
who want to
normativa textual
apply regulations
como se
by
desempeña
the word
y
without knowing how is the performance, and also with the growth of the industry
problemas de
and with the problems of resources, it's more and more difficult to apply these methodologies
eficientes para
in an
poder
efficient manner,
recursos que tenemos
so that with a few resources that we have, we can oversee our operators, but at the same time,
ahogarlos
not trying to
en procesos que no
um,
necesariamente aumentan
overwhelm them with the processes.
que
I think that
dentro también del panel AGA podemos
it's something that within the AGA panel we can start exploring.
Rodrigo está alzando la mano que
Much
quiere
work
participar.
is being done in that respect. Rodrigo is raising his hand. Many states will move in that direction. Rodrigo?
Bien, gracias. Gracias, Fabio.
Yes, thank you, Fabio. And thank you for the presentation.
Gusto verte.
Marcelo, nice to see you.
Comentar algo ahí de esa herramienta.
I was going to say something about that tool. I don't know if we have any colleagues who participated in the
El último curso que tuvimos.
in the last course that we had here in the office.
Los colegas de AGA que estaban presentes.
The AGA colleagues that attended the course, well, we addressed the issue of the use of the bow tie tool
Ver las barreras, acuerdo un
to see the barriers.
En la época tratamos de esto
At that time, we addressed that issue, for instance, to see the impact of a specific topic and what type of hazards or risks could emerge due to specific non-compliance. And I see that Brazil is implementing something in practice, because obviously what I present is it was something theoretical in the course. And on my side, I think it is very important. And there is a context of Brazil where you have a public aerodromes, some international aerodromes, domestic aerodromes, with scheduled or non-scheduled flights at different sizes of airports, even private airports. And for the international aerodromes, for those aerodromes that we verify the compliance with all the requirements. We establish operational specifications. We say that aerodrome is a 4 Charlie, 4 Echo, or a 3 Charlie, whatever. And we put that they have a next level, a category of firefighting services, and we define more or less what are their operational limits. But the public aerodromes that are not certified, they have a runway, a small terminal, and for private operations or air taxi or charter flights, there is no instrument on our side that define clear operational limits. But the AGA authority must do the oversight anyway. In general, there is not enough people. It could be in Brazil with 500 or another state with 30, 50 aerodromes. They don't have enough inspectors to be there every day. So we have to prioritize. We have to plan the oversight using Annex 19, risk-based surveillance. And also, we have to promote, and I think that's a big gain of this tool. We have to promote the airlines, the aircraft operator that has a safety structure that is more robust, but also the small aircraft operators that have a small aircraft, that are aircraft operators that are certified 135, or pilots, or somebody who has a small aircraft operating under 91, in the case of FIR or LAR 95, which are operations of small or non-scheduled flights. They have to do their risk assessment according to their SMS. In the case of private ones, they don't need an SMS. But as far as I know, but they do have to make an assessment. And what they told me, the colleagues from Brazil, and I think that that is in general, that the aircraft operators don't know how to do it. They have their methodology, but it's not the methodology that is aligned with the criteria of the Civil Aviation Authority on the AGA side. That happens in Brazil, and that happens with all the authorities, with most of the authorities. So it's a tool that allows you
primero
first
que uno vincule
to
incumplimientos
relays
que pasan
non-compliance or something that occurs
específicamente en el aeródromo,
specifically in the aerodrome. For instance, the runway strip does not have as um, 140 meters on each side. It has 130, or the RESA, or the width of the runway is not 45, it's 42 meters or 30 meters.
vincule eso
It relates that
cumple requisitos
with the requirements, whether they comply or not.
vincula con
And they relate it
a un evento algo
to
específico
a specific event
personal, o sea,
related to safety.
esta franja que
There's a strip
con el ancho completo
that does not have the full width,
es una barrera menos de recuperación en
is
caso
a barrier to recovery in the case of a runway excursion, because there's not enough space for the aircraft,
o si el
or
rozamiento del pavimento
if the friction of the pavement
estaba abajo del mínimo,
is below the minimum,
aumenta la probabilidad de una discusión.
we have a more probabilities of a runway excursion. So
Si se convergen un
if
rozamiento bajo
we have low friction together with a small width, we have less barriers to prevent an excursion
menos recuperación luego
and less recovery from the excursion, because we have a less area. We don't have a RESA,
que no llueve.
but it's a dry area where it doesn't rain. And I think that's not in the tool, I don't know, but that's less problem because of the friction. When it doesn't rain, that's no problem. But if it rains, if there's snow and ice, that's a problem. So that's the first thing. And the second is,
Un operador aéreo
if an aircraft operator uses
esa metodología
that methodology,
que esa metodología conversa
that methodology
con lo que está haciendo la autoridad,
agrees with what the authority is doing, that gives more peace of mind to the authority, in the sense that the aircraft operator is doing a better assessment of the operating conditions, and therefore,
lleva teóricamente a una operación más
theoretically speaking, that leads to a safer operation. It leaves the inspectors more at ease, because there's less likelihood that something will occur in the aerodrome. So congratulations. And just to mention those points,
podemos de alguna manera
that
traer a un
somehow we can bring
de los también creo del tema
to
de los
the topic of the certification processes, because when we are certifying and there is a non-compliance, and the operator has to present a proposal regarding deviation, or if there is a non-compliance that will be corrected within a certain period of time, where the corrective action plan, but in the meantime, you have to apply mitigation measures. You have to understand what are the hazards involved in that non-compliance in order to propose mitigation actions or to justify a deviation. So that you have to know the consequences to establish the measures, and what other barriers. If you don't have this barrier because of non-compliance, what other barrier can I add eventually in order to reduce the gap left by that barrier that I don't have, and that I cannot implement immediately, or maybe I will never be able to implement in case of non-compliance with the physical characteristics that can never be corrected. So I just wanted to make that long comment to express what I think about that work, which I think is very good experience. When months and years go by, and Brazil will see the results and statistics, and have the feedback of the industry as to how it's operating. Thank you very much. Take care.
Gracias, Rodrigo.
Thank you, Rodrigo.
Gracias, Rodrigo. Gracias.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you, Koiti.
¿Algún otro comentario o pregunta? Pepe,
Any further comments? Pepe, is the same hand? No, it's a new one. It's a new one for Rodrigo.
Claro, nosotros tenemos unas 300 pistas.
We have 300 runways, more or less. Brazil, they mentioned 500. Now, I understand that not all of them are paved. I think some may be of grass. So the criteria for the assessment are different. I mean, the assessment made by the inspector face to face in a grass runway, and the trust that the inspector must have with respect to the operator that sends the information, in the sense of that grass runway is in good conditions and that there is no cattle grazing or any other activities being carried out on the runway. The recovery of that data is great to do it remotely, because it is possible, as Marcelo says. For the 500, it's impossible. 300, one per day plus the trip, it's impossible. Even less 500. So I'm very interested in the program that you are carrying out. And let's keep in contact to see how we can apply it in our runways, because clearly not all have markings. If they are for day operations, we have signals according to LAR 145 with the neon plates. If they are for nighttime operations, how is it that you enable the lighting installation? What's the frangibility complying with the lighting requirements, the colors, the power of the lights? How do you take into account those other items, obstacle clearance, the fact that there is no fence nearby to protect the runway from the cattle? So in those 500 runways, not all of them are built in concrete. So not today, but maybe we can keep in contact to see how you develop that maintenance of remote inspections for the different locations. Thank you.
Estoy a disposición.
I'm at your disposal.
En chat, incluí
In the chat, I just put my email,
Estoy a disposición a todos.
so I'm at your disposal anytime.
Nuevamente, gracias, Coiti. Gracias.
Once again, thank you, Koiti. Thank you, Pepe. Any other question or comment for Marcelo?
Ok. Bueno,
Very
muchas
well
gracias
then.
nuevamente.
Thank you very much again.
Nos quedan pendientes
We
y
still
finalizamos
have, well, we
la sesión
finished
de
with agenda item 3 for the
tenemos
time being.
tres notas, dos
We have
documentos,
three
uno de
papers, three working papers, and one information paper under agenda item 4, and we also have a an information paper under agenda item 6 of the regional system. But so as not to leave the item unfinished, I wanted to ask whether you want to address those issues tomorrow morning. Those would be the only ones pending, and we would finish now with some final comments from the group. Unless you want to discuss now, I don't think we will have enough time to discuss the papers. A discussion as is warranted. I suggest that we do it tomorrow when we are all rested, so we can have a good discussion of the papers. Okay.
También de
Thank
acuerdo.
you, Pepe. Thank you, Yerko. I suggest that we do it tomorrow. Okay. In some of your countries, it's lunchtime, so I don't want to take more of your time. Fabio, this is Oscar from Chile, and this is a holiday for us. But the topic is so interesting that is really worth working. I suggest that we do it tomorrow. I suggest that in the next meeting, I will make sure that it's not a holiday. Colombia, it's also a holiday, I think. Eduardo? Yesterday, it was a holiday in Argentina. And that's why I was at home yesterday. No, what I wanted to ask you is my apologies to all the participants because probably I won't be able to be in the meeting tomorrow because you know that we start with the USOAP audit. So if I don't see you, I wish to thank you all for sharing these days. My greetings to all friends and thank you very much for the invitation, Fabio, Rodrigo, and let's hope that we keep in contact soon. Argentina has done a lot to participate. I didn't know whether you would be able to participate. I knew about the audit. Thank you very much for that and wish you all success in the audit. I know that you'll do great. You have a good system. So with confidence. Thank you very much, Eduardo. So tomorrow we would continue and think about the issues that you think we should address in the next 3 years. We have already discussed a few, but we want to get from you the priorities that we need to address in the next few years. For instance, we haven't discussed the issue of the heliports and vertiports, and that's something that we are analyzing. We also have the issue of a training that we discussed a little with the people, with our colleagues from TCB. So think about these issues that you are lacking now or in which you have some problems and we can address in the future through the regional system or directly through other initiatives. Very well then. Thank you very much. Okay, then have a great afternoon. Thank you very much. Greetings to all. See you tomorrow.
Saludos a todos. Saludos a todos.
Gracias, saludos.
Gracias a todos. Gracias, Fabio.
Thank you, Fabio.
Muy bien.
Saludos, gracias.
Saludos.
Chao, Reni.
Bye, Rennie.
Chao, campeón.
Hasta luego con todos. Chao, hasta luego.
Goodbye, everybody. See you tomorrow.